Two new Fox polls measuring the impact of the Jeremiah Wright scandal show diverging opinions of Barack Obama. The majority of Americans do not believe that the Illinois senator shares the views of his pastor. But, and here's the problem for Barack, a large percentage of the electorate has begun to doubt Obama based on his relationship with Reverend Wright. And now the Politico.com reports that the pastor controversy is turning off white voters in Pennsylvania. I could have told you that, too. With us now is Democratic strategist and my old buddy, Bob Beckel, and Republican strategist and my old friend, Carol Platt-Levo. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Hey, Bob, how big a price is Obama paying for this, especially among white Catholics, who I think the numbers I've seen are pretty troubling if you're Barack Obama looking at a general election where you got to win white Catholic votes?
Well, let's remember now, this is only a few days since this whole thing blew up, so I'm not at all surprised he's taking a hit in the polls. And the other thing about buyer's remorse, you know, front runners tend to get knocked off near the end of, in our party, tend to get knocked off near the end of the process. I mean, they survive and they go on and get the nomination, but it happened to Mondale in Indiana. It happened to Bill Clinton in Ohio near the end of the process. So, you know, I'm not surprised by those numbers. I also think it's a long time between now and then. And frankly, I don't think it's such a bad thing that Obama took a rough patch. You know, this is a guy who was too much on a pedestal. There was too much about him that was almost too good to be true. And he's weathering a storm, and he will weather this one. And I think it probably, in the long run, may work out for him.
Here's my worry, Bob, and I'll just say it frankly, Democrat to Democrat. A lot of the Obama supporters I talk to, and this is not about which race you are, it's about who you support, think that they had this thing won. And now they're worried that it's somehow going to be stolen from them. And particularly with this Jeremiah Wright thing, stolen from them because the white man, in some sense, is taking it away. I mean, the last thing our party needs is a fight along this line. How do you avoid it?
Well, the way you avoid it is, and I wrote a piece about this the other day in realpolitics.com, is that superdelegates who are supposed to be party leaders ought to stop whining about having a long, drawn-out process and make up their minds. I mean, by June 3rd is going to be the last contest we have. On June 4th, they'll have all the evidence they need to make a decision. So stop whining and make a decision and get this thing over with. Now, the idea of taking this away from Barack Obama, if he, and he will have the most number of pledged delegates, I suspect he'll have the most number of votes, certainly the most number of states, you would have to have a very compelling reason why he's not electable in November, and I can't imagine what that reason would be. It's certainly not right. These polls are not moving that much. So if she were ahead of him by 15 points, or ahead of McCain by 15 points, and Barack Obama was behind by 15 points, maybe you could. But I'll tell you, the price to be paid for taking it away from him would be enormous.
I'm not debating you, Bob Beckel, on this topic, because there's no hope. We get down this road on the air, off the air. So, for the sake of our friendship, I will only ask you political questions. I am not going down this road with you because it's going to be just like the Iraq War. Carol, let me ask you this question.
Sure.
I couldn't disagree with Susan and Bob anymore in this sense. If you look at the polls, for example, a new CBS News poll that is out, Barack Obama's 10-point lead with John McCain among independents has turned into an 8-point deficit. That is an 18-point reversal. Now, every other poll, Zogby, Rasmussen, and I can list a whole series of others, they show double-digit falling numbers here. And I think it is so dramatic, and the people I talk to in the email I read and the callers to my talk radio show are all saying the same thing. They don't believe Barack Obama didn't know, and they question his judgment for the associations. Do you really, can this change by November?
Well, you know, it's a big problem for him, and I think he made it worse by making a strategic error in shifting the conversation from Jeremiah Wright to race generally. Because one of the big selling points of his whole candidacy has been this sort of post-racial vision, the idea that he wasn't a black man running for president, he was running for president, and he happened to be a black man. And now what he's done is he's opened the door for everyone to get dragged back into the muck of identity politics, where he's going to have a very difficult time pleasing all the constituencies he needs to please to win.
Yeah, and one of the things here, you know, Bob Beckel, you know what, he wanted Trent Lott fired. He called for Don Imus to be fired, said nobody on my staff said anything like that. And yet, even in this speech, he won't disavow his pastor. Now, whether or not we disagree,
fighting with him.
No, whether or not you disagree, that is viewed as hypocrisy, Bob. So forget the issue and deal with his call for firing of Imus and Trent Lott.
First of all, if I could say to my Republican colleague here, after listening to probably the greatest speech on race and politics in America, to suggest for a minute that this was not something that really is significant. First of all, you always got to have a race discussion in America, but I'll tell you something. It's a good. I will give you this. You want to talk about politics on political grounds? When you want to talk about politics on political grounds, it's a good thing. The 18-point swing doesn't surprise me at all. It's better that it happens now than October. This thing does not have legs except in your community, Sean, and in the right-wing blogs. It's not going to matter. It is not going to matter.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm going to tell you, and also his comments that he made the other way, talking about his grandmother on this radio program. As a matter of fact, I don't know if we can cue this up here, but he's on a radio program and he's explaining the question about bringing up his grandmother in the speech here, and then he uses the following term. Well, we don't have it.
I'm surprised you don't have every tape that the guy's ever made.
But she is a typical white person. Now, Bob, I'm telling you, this is not going over, and as evidenced by the polls, take Sean Hannity's personality out of this. Because there's a part of me that's sad about this, Bob. This is not good for race relations in this country. This exacerbates the divide that I don't think has been healthy with Democrats attacking a president at war. This is harmful on a lot of levels, but that rhetoric is not going to be forgotten by November by a lot of people.
Well, first of all, let me just say that you are so much better known now in black churches in America than you were 2 weeks ago that it's remarkable. I know that they let you have it in Chicago, but they also let you have it in a number of churches around here that they report on the local news. So you have made a hit. But I'll say this. Look, you've got a legitimate issue to be raised here. This guy, he's been there 20 years, and if after Barack Obama said he was not there during these things that you've been publicizing, and he in fact was there, then I think that's a legitimate issue.
I'll throw out an offer for you, Bob, and I mean this sincerely. If Reverend Wright, if any pastor that doesn't like the fact that I have accurately played and highlighted his pastor of 20 years, I will be glad to meet with him and go to church, because I'm a Christian too.
No, listen, I don't disagree that you played the tape. In fact, I think you got it from the church, right? So that's I'm not arguing with the substance of what he said, and Obama denounced that. But look, I think that this is not that it's much to do about nothing. It is a big deal. But it's not going to last through now in November.
Thank you both. Thank you for being with us. And coming up, the Jeremiah Wright scandal has uncovered